So good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us in this webinar, where hopefully you will learn more about BlockStart and our open call too. My name is Nadine Telch from F6S. I'm BlockStart's communication manager, and with me presenting, I have my colleague João from Bright Pixel, BlockStart's lead partner.
Everyone, I hope you enjoy our webinar.
Thank you, João. But before we start, some technical recommendations for you. So please make sure that you have your microphone and video turned off during the presentation. We also ask you to please rename yourself to first, last name, and entity you represent, like you see here in the picture on the right, as it will be easier for us to identify you during the Q&A. There will also be a specific slot dedicated to Q&A. So if you wish to ask a question, please raise your hand, like you see in the picture on the right. And we ask you kindly to please do not use the chat for questions or turn on your microphone. The moderator will go through the raised hands and ask participants to turn on their microphone and ask their questions. So we ask you kindly to please wait for your turn. And if you want, we can make a short test. So I ask you to all please raise your hands and say good morning, everyone. Okay, seeing some raised hands, great. Thank you so much. So here's the agenda for this webinar. I will start with a short presentation of what BlockStart is. Then my colleague João Fernandes will speak a little bit about our open call tool. And then we will provide some tips and lessons learned from our open call 1 based on the Q&A that we have received at the time. We will also have with us a company that is being supported by BlockStart, Kidian, and with us we will have Rainis Skorovs, who will speak a little bit about Kidian, why they have applied to BlockStart, how has been their experience, and also provide some tips for future applicants. And finally, we will close with the Q&A. But first, we have prepared a short poll to break the ice, let's say, so that we can get to know you a little bit more and what are your expectations for this webinar. So I will launch the poll and I ask you all to provide your answers. So the first one is about your background. Do you represent a startup, an SME, a large corporate, an incubator, an accelerator, or a similar type of entity, an association? Are you from the public sector or from the general audience? Please note that your answers will be anonymous, so this data will not appear in the video recording of the webinar. Okay, so everyone seems to have voted already. So I would say that the majority of our participants is from a startup or an SME, which makes sense. You are obviously the most interested ones in our open call too, but also a few participants from large corporates and also from public entities. So welcome everyone and thank you for participating. Moving on to our second pool. So we would like to know in which of the following sectors are you operating at or are you most interested in? So you can choose more than one option. Okay, so everyone has voted. I will close the poll and share with you. So a lot of interest on the ICT sector, followed by fintech and then retail. So moving on to our third poll, we were wondering about your main interest in this webinar. And you can also choose more than one option. So we are very curious about why you are in this webinar and ultimately why you want to apply to our open call too. Waiting just a little bit longer for final answers. Okay, so I will share with you the results. And here we have, so more than half of you is very eager to learn about how BlockStart can help you develop your blockchain-based solution. So to become our blockchain developers, but also how we can match you with potential end user SMEs. But also some interests by end user SMEs willing to adopt blockchain technologies, and also how some members of our community can best support their startup ecosystem. And so finally, our last pool, it's about if you already knew about BlockStart. Have you already applied to our open call 1? Is this the first time for you? Or you haven't actually heard nothing about BlockStart and are very, very much interested in learning more? So I'm seeing here in the chat that there are some people with difficulties in listening. Are you still having those difficulties? Are you all listen correctly? Ah, okay, it's okay, great. Okay, I will now close this pool, so the final one, and share with you our results. So for the second Q&A webinar, so the majority of you do not know about BlockStart. So it will be an interesting learning experience for you, I hope, and that in the end, you are interested in applying because you think that what you have in terms of your blockchain-based solution or your willingness to adopt blockchain fits our program. So what is BlockStart? So BlockStart is a 3-stage intensive mentor-led program that aims at fostering blockchain adoption among startups in 3 sectors: retail, fintech, and ICT. The main goal of this H2020 project is to facilitate goal-oriented, business-focused, and mutually beneficial partnerships between 2 types of companies: the DLT blockchain solution providers and the end user SMEs, which will be the adopters of those blockchain solutions. Just for your curiosity, BlockStart is run by Brightpixel, an early stage investor in B2B software, currently with 15 startups invested, Civita, an innovation consultancy firm present all around Europe, and F6S, the largest community of startup founders generating 2 billion euros every year. But you might be wondering, what do we offer? So startups accepted in BlockStart will have access to a variety of perks, including equity-free funding, so up to 20K from each blockchain solution provider, and then up to 4.5K for each end user SME willing to adopt the blockchain-based solution. We also provide market validation, meaning that you will go through a 3-stage acceleration program that will help you fine-tune, test, and demo your blockchain solution with real users, which will be the end user SMEs. We also provide growth supports, meaning personalized mentoring throughout this 3-stage acceleration program. And finally, networking and community, meaning access to clients and potential investors, and the possibility to also showcase your solution in the end of the program. And how does it work, you might be wondering. So BlockStart's acceleration program starts with a 1-day event called the Ideation Kickoff. For our Open Call 2, we already have a date, which will be on the 26th of November, and it will be an online event. In this event, participate 20 blockchain startups selected from our pool of applications, which will already have the chance to present their solution to 10 end-user SMEs. Their presentations will be evaluated by business and technical experts invited to be at this particular event. And 10 DLT blockchain developers will be selected to go to our prototype stage. In this stage, blockchain startups receive a grant of 1,000 euros, while the end user SMEs receive 1,500 euros of grants for their participation at this 1-day event. Then our 10 blockchain startups selected at the ideation kickoff will go through a 4-month prototype stage that will help them further develop their solution towards product market fit through an online mentoring set of sessions. So the blockchain startups that reach the end of our prototype stage receive a grant of 15,000 euros. However, and unfortunately, only 5 can be selected to go to our program's last stage, which will be the pilot stage. During 2 months, the 5 selected blockchain startups will be matched with up to 20 end-user SMEs, and will have the chance to implement their solutions with these real users. The program ends with a demo day, which is scheduled, in this case for our Open Call 2 for June 2021, with the aim of promoting the solutions to potential clients and investors. And after the stage is completed, startups will receive 4,000 euros and end-user SMEs will receive 3,000 euros for their participation and engagement in the program. But who are our target companies? So BlockStart is looking for 2 types of companies. DLT blockchain startups, who are the solution providers in the program, who are seed, early and growth stage startups in the form of SMEs that provide innovative DLT blockchain-based solutions in 3 sectors, fintech, ICT, and retail, like I told you a few minutes ago. And on the other hand, we will also look for end-user SMEs who will serve as solution adopters. Since one of the main objectives of BlockStart is to encourage collaboration between end-user SMEs on the one hand and blockchain startups on the other hand, during the pilot stage of the program, which, like you have noticed, is the last stage, eligible SMEs will have the chance to implement the solutions developed by the startups in the scope of BlockStart. So let's say that the matchmaking itself, it's made in the end of the acceleration program. However, please note that only selected beneficiaries of BlockStart will benefit from the program services. So only if you will go through all the phases of the program. But now you might be wondering, so what do we mean by startup in the form of an SME? So what do we mean by that is that blockchain startups and end user SMEs must fulfill the following criteria that you see here in the screen. So they should be registered as a company that complies with the Commission's recommendations for SMEs, meaning that you must comply with the following 3 criteria. So be an independent company, so not linked or owned by another enterprise. Also have a net count in annual work unit less than 250 people, and have an annual turnover less or equal to 50 million euros, or an annual balance sheet total less or equal to 43 million euros. So these are the eligibility criteria for considering a company as an SME. However, please note that startups that do not yet comply with criteria 3, which is the annual turnover, are also considered eligible given that they fulfill criteria 1 and 2. So the number of human resources and being an independent company. And they are considered eligible at submission time if they have fulfilled criteria 1 and 2. And also, of course, you must be a technology provider in the case of a blockchain startup, or a technology adopter in the case of an end user SME, and being able to develop or adopt the solutions that you present or are willing to integrate in your company in these 3 sectors that I have already identified. So fintech, ICT, and retail. And here's an important note for you as well in terms of target companies. So if you still do not have a constituted SME, so a legal SME created, you can apply to our open call too, but only if you are applying as a blockchain solution provider. So if you are an end user SME, you need to fulfill the criteria of being a company. But if by the time that you are applying to our open call tool, you are still haven't legally created your company, you can be an individual or a group of individuals legally established in an H2020 eligible country. And instead of uploading Annex 5 of our online application form, you should upload our Annex 5.1. which is a written commitment to set up a legal SME by the time you reach the ideation kickoff. So how about the funding? So where does it come from and how you will get it? So I think this is the question you are all asking, right? So funding is given by BlockStart under a sub-grant agreement, which is our Annex 7 of our open call documentation. And this sub-grant agreement is signed between the selected proposers and the BlockStart consortium. The funding is given by the European Commission under the H2020 framework program, which uses BlockStart as an intermediary to provide this funding. The aid provided is relying on a cascade funding scheme involving H2020 funds. So BlockStart receives the H2020 funds, which are then transferred to the winners of our open call tool based on the rules and regulations explained in the guidelines for applicants, which is our Annex 2. We considered it as the Bible of our open calls. So my suggestion is that you read carefully our Annex 2 guidelines for applicants. The maximum amount of funding that each blockchain startup receives is 20K, so 1K after the ideation kickoff, 15K after the prototype stage, and then 4K after the pilot stage. While, on the other hand, an end-user SME may receive up to 4.5K, so 1.5K after the ideation kickoff and 3K after the pilot stage. BlockStart's funding is also a results-driven one, so there will be no pre-funding. Blockchain startups and end-user SMEs are paid with the completion of each stage. So at the end of the ideation kickoff, at the end of the prototype stage, and then at the end of our pilot stage. However, you do not need to provide cost justifications to receive this financial support, as payments are provided in a lump sum mode and release if certain conditions or deliverables are met. And this you will find more information in our Annex 2, but if you also have any questions regarding the deliverables you need to submit in your application form, or how is the process in terms of deliverables and conditions throughout the program, we can talk a little bit about that in our Q&A. And finally, regarding BlockStart program as a whole, and just for your curiosity, in our Open Call 1, which we launched last year, we received 90 applications from 30 countries. From those, 20 blockchain startups were selected to go to our ideation kickoff, with only 10 going through the prototype stage. So we are now currently running the pilot stage of our Open Call 1, after selecting our top 5 blockchain startups. And they have been now partnered with 20 end-user SMEs. So for each blockchain startup, they are working more or less with 5 end-user SMEs willing to test their solutions. And here in the screen, you can see our top 5 that are currently in our pilot stage. So To Be Smart, Datarella, Infidia, Kidian, who will be speaking today, and Rex.io. So if you go to this link, you are able to visit their profiles if you wish to know a little bit more about them and their journey in BlockStart. So I will now pass over the presentation to my colleague, João Fernandes, who will speak to you a little bit about our Open Call 2. So João, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Nadine. So now focusing a bit more about Open Call 2, now that I hope that you have a better broad understanding of the program. So in terms of the timeline, so okay, acceleration program, but not only the program itself, but also the path leading to that. So in terms of the application evaluation, we have here two ways for blockchain startups and also the open call for end user SMEs. So 2 different open calls. For DLT startups, the open call submissions are until the end of this month, so precisely 5 p.m. Brussels time. So please bear in mind that you have 1 week to submit your application. Then we will evaluate the applications until the 23rd of October, and until the 23rd we'll inform the startups if they were selected or not. Then the next step, so the selected startups will participate in an ideation kickoff event on the 26th of November. This event will be a remote event, so all-day event, but remote for sure because of COVID. And then prototype stage, so at this event, ideation kickoff, will have 20 startups. These 20 startups will pitch their solution, and at the end of the day, we'll select the 10 most promising startups. These 10 startups will move to prototype stage. Prototype stage is the acceleration part, ranging from December to March 2021. and at the end of this process, we'll select the 5 finalists that will implement their solutions in SME adopters by April until June 2021. In parallel to this, for SME adopters open call will take place until the 2nd of November. Then evaluation and selection will be pretty fast from 4th to 9th of November, so that they are in time to participate and be aware that they are invited to Ideation Kickoff. For Ideation Kickoff, we will have 10 SMEs, matchmaking with the developers that will pitch there. And then after this participation in the Ideation Kickoff, the next involvement of SMEs in the program will be in pilot stage in April to June. So basically, and basically this is the timeline. And I would also emphasize that it's important to mention that the DLT startups selected for the Ideation Kickoff, which will be communicated by 23rd of October, are supposed to, if that's the case, if they have contacts of SME adopters, to suggest potential adopters to the SME adopter open call. So meaning, if by mid-October, let's say, you are one of the selected startups to participate in Ideation Kickoff event, we'll give you the opportunity to invite contacts within your network, so companies that you are already working with or companies that you have in mind that could be a good fit for you in terms of potential adopter of your technology. We'll give you the opportunity to invite these SMEs so that they are included in the pool to be evaluated. So I think that's it about the timeline. After this, so some recommendations in terms of your application process. So we strongly recommend you to apply as soon as possible. So at 5 p.m. Brussels time, 30 of September, we'll completely close the applications. It's automatic in fact, so please apply ideally with some days in advance. Also, English is the official language of the whole application. All applications must be, in fact, submitted by F6S, so the actual application form. So we won't be able to receive any documents by email or any change of your application. Everything should be done through F6S portal. And also bear in mind that you can only submit one proposal, meaning that if you submit several ones, we will only take into consideration the last proposal. So that's something that you should also be aware. So after this, it's important to mention also that you may resubmit a proposal that you previously submitted. So for instance, let's say that you applied for Open Call 1, you will be able to apply to Open Call 2, or even if you apply to Open Call 2 and you are not selected, then you can also apply to our final Open Call 3 happening by next year. But you should also take into consideration that you'll need to show what is the difference between the previous application and the new application. So, and in the application form, you'll find specific questions where we'll request this. So, how did you evolve? How are you different from the previous application that we already assessed? And also, only DLT startups that were not selected for prototype stage can resubmit an application, meaning that if you previously submitted an application and were not selected to Ideation Kickoff, you can resubmit. Even if you submitted an application and were selected to Ideation Kickoff event, but you were not one of the 10 that moved to the prototype acceleration stage, so these 4 months program. If you didn't participate in prototype stage, you still be eligible to apply. So only these 10 finalists, let's say, are not able to reapply. And for SMEs, for the case of SMEs, it's the similar. So the ones that participated in the ideation kickoff can still apply. Only the ones participating in pilot stage, so the very last stage of implementation, only these are not able to apply again to the program. For UK companies, if you are an UK-based company, that's pretty much okay for us. So you can apply. So in terms of your potential issues with the fact that you'll share sensible information with us, we can rest assured that we are GDPR compliant, and of course we are under EU law very heavily, as in fact this is an European Commission supported program. So you can be sure that we will be completely confidential with all the information that you share with us. Only the information that is devised to be publicly shared, meaning like if you are selected, we will be able to communicate that you were among the selected teams. So not much more about than this. So also when we select the teams and the teams that participate in our acceleration program, they are showcased in our website, but all of this is based on the information that is provided by you, and that you are aware that this information will be feeding your public profile in our website. So apart from that, only us and the European Commission, in case of audit, will access this information. Also special reference to I would say the trickiest part of the application process, Annex 4 and Annex 5. So the declaration of honor and the SME declaration that we will need you to fill in, to sign. And so I would emphasize that you should take very much attention to these two documents. They are not so straightforward to fill in, especially Annex 5. We try to make it as lean as possible, but with these bureaucratic requirements from European Commission, we couldn't fight them as much as we wanted. But apart from this, I would say that this would be the biggest hurdles, let's say, in your application process. Check all the boxes, all the signature. If you have any doubt, come back to us. But you should submit these by the F6S form. Also, if you are not a registered SME, by now there's no problem. We'll have Annex 5.1, so it's a declaration of commitment to establish an SME. So basically, you instead of Annex 5, you will fill in this Annex 5.1. But until the ideation kickoff, you'll need to then sign the Annex 5 SME declaration, or at least you should take into consideration that you will only be provided a grant, the payment for participating in the ideation kickoff, after you registered your SME and you filled in the Annex 5. But as of today, like for applying, that's enough, the declaration of commitment. But if you are already a registered SME, please fill in the Annex 5. So I think that's it from this. And so some words on the evaluation process. DLT startups, for DLT startups, we'll do an eligibility check. And so if you're not eligible, you'll send a rejection, you'll receive a rejection email. The ones that are eligible, and for this eligibility, it's very important, the criteria that Nadine previously shared, but also this Annex 4 and 5. So some cases of companies that will be eligible, but they don't fill correctly these two annexes, and so they are not considered because of this unfortunate situation. So what we may say is that if you apply, so in the previous webinar, we've told to the participants that if you apply until yesterday end of day, so 22nd September end of day, we would screen all the applications received until then, and we would contact the ones that are not eligible because of the annexes. And so we gave this early bird advantage to the ones that already submitted. For you, actually we are 1 week until the deadline. What we can do, we cannot promise this time that we'll do this, but what we can do is that as soon as you submit your application, the more time we'll have for this. And actually, if you submit your application until the end of this Sunday, so the 27th of September, we'll try our best to, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, eventually, to still come back to you if you have some problem in the annexes. So we cannot promise this time, but let's say that you apply today or tomorrow, there will be a high probability that we will be able to give a quick look at your annexes and to see if there is any problem or not. So to avoid this problem with eligibility check, please submit as soon as possible. So then if everything is okay with your application, you'll be evaluated by our internal team of experts, BlockStart experts, 2 experts per application at least, and these experts will select the top 40. Then the top 40 will be, if you are not within this top 40, we'll let you know. Otherwise, 2 external evaluators will filter down from 40 to 20 startups participating in the ideation kickoff. So this is the process for DLT startups. For end user SMEs, there's a first analysis of eligibility check again, and then internal evaluation. So 3 experts from BlockStart will select the 10 that will participate in the ideation kickoff. And for SME adopters, you'll actually have 2 moments to apply, so 2 cutoff dates. One, 2nd of November, to participate in ideation kickoff, to be one of the 10 participating in ideation kickoff. And then for pilot stage, the next cutoff will be until around March next year. And this cutoff will be devised to select the 20 SME adopters participating in the final pilot stage. So, sorry. So that's about it, about the evaluation process. In terms of the criteria for all this evaluation process, for DLT startups, so eligibility check, annexes uploaded, everything complies with the criteria that we define. Then internal and external evaluation, the criteria will be concept, the design, reliability, the novelty of the product, the concept itself, technology. So if it fits our scope, our 3 main sectors, retail, fintech, ICT, and the technical capacity that you show to achieve TRL 6 to 9 at pilot stage. So, and how well you are able to explain your technical milestones. So how sound is your development. Then in terms of the impact, also very important to the business impact, so the business viability, the societal impact, so how your solution will impact society as a whole, but very much linked with a clear exploitation strategy, business plan. So not only technical feasibility and value, but something that you can take out of business of. And then the team, the company itself, and especially the team. So you'll have some segment in application form that will recommend you to to take special care to describe the people that are behind the project, LinkedIn links and all of this, and how this team is coherent and is complementary between the profiles. So, and for SME eligibility criteria, in terms of eligibility check, it's based on if you are a legal entity, if you're an SME, if you filled in the DLT assessment tool. So this is the tool that we have in our website to assess how blockchain is relevant for you or not, you SME, and then the annexes 4 and 5 again, if they are correctly filled in. And criteria to be evaluated by 3 experts from BlockStart consortium. The potential to be matched with a DLT startup based on your on your needs. Also, the innovation level of your use case in so how blockchain makes sense for you, and how, if the use case that you are presenting, if it's an impactful one or not, and the overall score from the do you need blockchain assessment tool. So basically, but the first criteria would in fact be the most important one. So basically, what we'll do is that we'll validate your profile with the DLT startups that we've selected. So first we kind of select the DLT startups, and only afterwards the SME adopters. And we always make dependent on the DLT startups profiles, the SMEs that we are taking on board. So basically, this first criteria, what does it mean, and how will we assess it? We'll present the profiles of SME adopters, applicants, to the DLT startups already selected, and we'll ask them, so how relevant are these companies for you? Who will be your top picks to work with in a pilot stage? So all our program is oriented to have the greatest DLT startups on board and have the most relevant, the SMEs with highest probability of being then future clients of our DLT startup solution on board. So that's about it. First, before going to and having Nadine talking a bit about some tips and lessons learned from Open Call 1, I would just share that when you look at the application form and you see like 30 questions, don't be afraid that it will take too long to fill in. So basically, 2/3, I would say, of these questions are very straightforward, like 1-2 words answer or even check box. So only, I would say, 6-7 of these questions would be needing some special care to further explain your project, your team, your market potential, and so on. So to these questions, devote some special care to build the best scenario about your solution. But bear in mind that I would say that 1 hour in total will be enough. If you have your arguments organized, 40 minutes to 1 hour maximum would be more than enough to submit an application. So if you had 1 hour and 30 to devote to this webinar, I'm sure you'll have 1 hour to apply if we convince you well, of course. So now passing the mic to Nadine.
Thank you so much, João.
Thank you.
So we received a lot of questions about our Open Call 1, and we have prepared some tips and lessons learned for you with the learnings from our Open Call 1. And we hope that this might answer some of the questions that you may be having right now through the course of this presentation. So here are some tips. So we received a lot of questions about, for instance, the possibility of subcontracting. So successful applicants can actually use part of the money of the sub-grant agreement to subcontract services from a technological partner to help them implement their project. When, for instance, sometimes certain skills are still missing within the recently created team. However, please take into consideration that your team must have the necessary skills to develop the solution, as it will be your team and not the subcontracted party to go to BlockStart's program. So you must make sure that, yes, you can include subcontracting, but your proposal must be reasonable and in line with the milestones to be reached in the scope of BlockStart. But this is normally a case-by-case type of assessment. So if you are thinking about subcontracting at the time, we can speak and see what makes sense or not. So then there were also a few questions about the minimis age. So the need to comply with the Commission's regulation on the minimis age. So what we can tell you is that being directly supported by the Commission, BlockStart grants do not need to comply with this regulation, but actually the amount of funding that we provide, it's below the 200,000 euros that you would need to comply with the state aid. So no problem here regarding this specific regulation. And then we had also a few companies asking about our data protection and confidentiality process, since sometimes they are developing very sensitive solutions, do not want to share a lot in their application process. So how do we deal with this information? So what I can tell you is that BlockStart's contract with the Commission means that consortium partners, so Brightpixel, Civita, and F6S, we need to comply with confidentiality and no conflict of interest clauses regarding the proposals that we receive in the scope of this program. And in addition, our external experts, so like my colleague João told you, we will have 2 external experts looking at your proposals, so the top 40 proposals. They will also need to comply with similar confidentiality clauses. So other companies also asked us about the TRL level of their solution by the time they are applying to BlockStart. So you can apply to BlockStart program with an idea, so not a fully grown solution. However, you will be evaluated based on your ability to achieve TRL 6 to 9. So this was the criteria 2 technology that my colleague João explained you a few minutes ago. So even though you can apply with only an idea, you must clearly demonstrate in your application that you will be able to reach this TRL level during pilot stage, since the idea is that as soon as you start testing your solution with end user SMEs, then you are able in the end of the program to commercialize your solution. And what about if you are a startup with no turnover by the time that you apply? You might be wondering if are you still eligible for BlockStart, since I present you the 3 criteria that you need to fulfill to be considered an SME. So according to our Annex 2, so the guidelines for applicants, which like I told you is our regulation Bible, yes, you are eligible if you fulfill criteria 1, which is being an independent SME, and 2, which is having human resources less than 250 people of the Commission's recommendations. So even if you do not comply with the turnover criteria, If you fulfill criteria 1 and 2, so being independent and having less than 250 people working for you, you can apply. And finally, what are the deliverables or milestones that you need to comply with if you are a successful applicant? So after applying, what are the deliverables or milestones that you need to achieve to move forward in our acceleration process? So for blockchain startups, when you are filling our application form, so apart from Annex 4 and 5, you also need to submit a short work plan, which is our Annex 3.1 proposal supplement. And this is part of the mandatory annexes. So in this work plan, you will explain a little bit about the milestones that you have for yourself as a company and that you want to achieve throughout the course of our acceleration program. And then if you succeed, so if you are a successful applicant going through our prototype stage, you will have mentoring to fine-tune the milestones that you have written in your application form. And by the end of our program, so in the pilot stage and also in the prototype stage, so when you get to the end of each one of those stages, you need to deliver a report, let's say, with the status of those milestones, have they been achieved or not, and also present or pitch your solution based on the development that you have been making for your product. So I would also like to provide, before I talk a little bit about our survey, I would also like to provide an extra recommendation like my colleague João also provided. So when you are applying to BlockStart, so the application form, like my colleague João told you, at least for blockchain startups, has more or less 30 questions. This is not the same for the online form of end-user SMEs, which have less questions. So you might think that this will take a lot of unnecessary time, but in fact, more or less half of these questions are of short answer or have up to 1,000 characters. We want it to be short and concise. And in other questions, you will be expected to be more detailed and provide answers that need to be supported by facts. And I also like to advise you to take a closer look at the text that it's in gray, sometimes below a certain question, that asks you or helps you answering with specific elements to complement your answers. So normally those are tips of what you must include in your answer. And there is also a specific question in the blockchain startups online form about referring end user SMEs that you might be already in the process of contacting or trying to work with. This is not a mandatory question because obviously you can apply to BlockStart without having already a pool of end user with SMEs ready to work with you. But if you already have contacts, this might be of added value for your application to explain a little bit about the type of contacts that you already made or the type of partnerships that you are already creating and that you can bring to BlockStart and further develop in the scope of our program. And you will be able to strengthen those contacts. So it's always of added value to answer this question if you already have some data about it. So to finalize, and before I pass the presentation to Rainis, which has already joined us. So I would like to present to you some survey results very, very shortly that we did for our Open Call 1 for participants either at the ideation kickoff and also at the end of our prototype stage. So as you can see, We asked participants about their feedback. So at the end of the ideation kickoff, that one day event, if they would recommend BlockStart to other participants, to other interested participants. And we had an average of 8.6 on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of recommending our program. And thank you so much for those who participated in this survey, because we were very happy about these results and the high level of recommendations that we had. And then we also asked 10 startups, so the 10 startups that went through our prototype stage. And in the end, we asked them about their recommendation of BlockStart to their network, to their peers. And the rating here was even higher. So it was 8.9 on a scale from 1 to 10. With half of them rating us with the maximum score. So I believe that this was the work of our mentors that helped our startups throughout the 4-month prototype stage. So thank you so much to our mentors who were extraordinary in supporting our 10 blockchain startups. And finally, here are some important links, such as where to ask us for further questions you might have, either through our F6S platform, so the forum that we have to discuss on BlockStart issues, or through our official BlockStart email. Other important links is also the third and the fourth one, which is where you can find the application form, either for blockchain startups, but also to end user SMEs. And here you also have the link to our Annex 2, so our Bible, our guidelines for applicants. And if you have any questions, just send them in, either through email or through the F6S platform. Our FAQ is also an important resource that you can use if you have further questions. So we always try to include more information about tips and lessons learned there as we go through our open calls. And also, if you want to sign up to our newsletter, you have the link to learn more about our program, how our startups are developing their programs, and a lot more about blockchain activities. So I would now like to give a warm welcome to our speaker, Rainis Skorovs. I hope that I didn't got the name wrong. So Rainis is from Kidian, one of our top 5 blockchain startups. He is now, he's been part of our program since day 1, and is now going through our pilot stage. And if I am not mistaken, he is working with more or less 5 end user SMEs, which is an achievement, let's say, willing to test and implement Kidian's solution that they have been developing in the scope of our programs. So Rainis, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and for your enthusiasm about our program. So the floor is yours, and you can stop sharing my presentation, and I think that you have some slides.
Thank you for the introduction. Let me share my screen first. So I will give you just a brief overview very quickly about what we do, just so you get an idea, and then mostly focus on our experience as being part of BlockStart, and also some tips and recommendations of what we would advise you if you get accepted into BlockStart. What is the things to focus on which could help you along the way. So I'll start right away. So what we essentially do is we provide last mile monitoring solutions. And where we were before joining BlockStart. Before joining BlockStart, we had a very rough prototype built out of our Raspberry Pi. So we are one of the few startups, especially here at BlockStart and other programs, which is building a blockchain-based platform which both has a hardware and software component to it. And then, as I mentioned, this started out with a very large rough prototype with a Raspberry Pi, basically enabling you to measure things like temperature, humidity, light, the air quality, and other factors on a single device, which automatically, which has its own blockchain-based identity and encrypts all this data, pushes it to our platform, and the platform uses Web3.js to display all information. And this is kind of one of early implementations of having fully immutable and verifiable data. So, during BlockStart, we were able to not only build our second version of a prototype, kind of an MVP version, which is, as you can see, a lot smaller, as well as fully built out an MVP version of both our dashboard online platform, as well as a mobile application for the people fulfilling last mile deliveries. So during BlockStart, we were able to actually conduct over 15, I think, 16 customer interviews. So this was important, as before joining BlockStart, we had kind of a rough idea of who might be customers of this, because it started out more of as a technology solution. So we were all founders passionate about both hardware and software and blockchain, and we built this kind of rough prototype. But the idea was, who's going to pay for it, who's going to use it, what problems will it solve. So during BlockStart, with the customer interviews, we were able to kind of narrow down the focus of who has the highest interest at the moment. And for this was the last mile deliveries, because before we were kind of looking at the whole supply chain, the cold chain, including manufacturers, the transport from the production warehouse to the warehouses in between, up to the end consumer. And we were able to kind of narrow down the focus to the specific last part of the supply chain. Then from these 16 interviews during BlockStart, we were able to actually get 9 companies that committed to, that are interested in working with us. And in the end, we were actually, this is kind of the old number 4, but in the end, we were able to actually sign 5 companies that wanted to pilot this solution with us during the BlockStart program. And the remaining 4 are, we will also be working together, but for them, it was not very interesting to be an SME adopter. There's actually 2 companies that are not SMEs, so that's why they're not participating. In 2 companies, they simply wanted to work with us without having to go through maybe all the paperwork for BlockStart application. But I will tell you a little bit more in one of the following slides about what is the necessary paperwork. Then in total, during BlockStart, we also identified in other countries a total of 45 leads. So when we joined BlockStart, we had this idea that we will pilot our solution in different European countries. So we wanted to have 1 pilot in Germany, 1 in France, and so on. But unfortunately, due to the situation that we were in, we were not able to travel across Europe to implement our pilots. And something that I will also tell later, so kind of the important part that we learned was that it's kind of very important to have a close contact with the SME adopters, to actually possibly meet them in person if possible, or have regular video calls. And for us, especially because we also had a hardware component, but also just for the software, it was important to have these close meetings to see, to demonstrate your solution, to see directly their feedback, hear their feedback, and see how they interact with your solution. So that's why we focused to launch pilot projects in 1 country first, where we were located in Latvia. And now we are slowly also expanding with our solution to other countries. From the 45 leads, those are all over Europe. As mentioned, we were able to fully develop an MVP prototype and test it out in a relevant environment, basically in real life scenarios, and see how it works and fine tune it. And during BlockStart, we also were able to build out our team. So when we started, we were just 3 people. Now we are still in BlockStart in the last stage, and now we're 7 employees. And then this last stage, the pilot stage, we started 5 pilot projects. And we did also, because we are this hardware component, we are able to actually manufacture more than 25 devices that we are giving and deploying to pilot customers. And throughout the whole process, doing tests with the pilot customers, even before the pilots, we were able to improve our solution so it's fits better their needs. So some tips and recommendations. So our goal during the last stage of BlockStart is to convert our pilot customers to paying customers. And this is just an example of our milestones during the first phase, but you will have certain milestones along the way in each of them. And it's kind of very important to track these KPIs and push very hard on them, because it might, the BlockStart period, it seems like a pretty long time actually. So you think it's not going to be so hard to meet all of them, but for us it was that in the first weeks we had so many other things to do, and we focused on some other, I believe, crucial parts of our business. But the thing was that our KPIs were not moving as quickly as we wanted to, because we were focusing on other stuff. And so as you can see, then when we moved further along in the last weeks, we did really have to focus specifically on the KPIs that we set out of BlockStart to meet those KPIs. But in actually looking back, that was a good part, because I believe sometimes we were trying to focus maybe on some parts of the business which didn't directly impact the results. And we believe that by meeting the BlockStart KPIs, we are also in a much better position to fundraise further money for our company and grow as a company, because those KPIs are verifiable, measurable, to kind of show the progress that you went through. Because sometimes you, as a startup, it's easy to work on something for a very, very long time, but actually then when you kind of have to kind of show some results for what you achieved, sometimes it's hard to do. And that's why we really like the strong KPI emphasis of BlockStart, which kind of pushes you to achieve those results. And then second, kind of our most important recommendation is to use for kind of how to with BlockStart. One of the issues with many grants and programs which has the European funding involved is that there's a lot of paperwork involved. And while we were kind of super interested to be part of BlockStart, we were interested in the grant that we received, which was important for our business. For us, it was okay to go through all the paperwork and fill it out. And there's usually forms where a lot of maybe things repeat, like the name of the company, and there's many things that repeat themselves. And for us, it was not a problem to fill it out, as we see the immediate return on investing our time into it. But the problem is when you kind of talk with small, medium enterprise adopters, so these companies you want to pilot with, the problem is that they might also see the value, but the money that they receive is much smaller, and so maybe their interest is mostly related to the software that you're building, but they don't have this high interest in BlockStart program specifically, because they don't know as much as you do. And the issue is that we started out when we started sending them all of these different documents that they need to sign, and everything kind of slowed down. And then it was kind of you needed to push them and follow along, and then new documents showed up, and it was very hard for us to actually convert them to possible pilot customers. So what we did is, so we used DocuSign, which I would recommend you to do as well if you go through, because it enables you to create templates where you can actually put in all the documents. So for the pilot stage, we actually needed to have 6 documents for the SME adopters. So we put all the documents in one template, and we put it has smart fields. So when you can fill out the name of the company, the name of the person signing, the turnover, and all the numbers that you only need to fill in once, and it will automatically fill other parts of the document. So it's much easier for the company to understand what they need to fill in and sign a document in a much more quicker process. So when we started out, we were trying to do everything manually. It took us 2 weeks, and we still did not have all signatures after going the route with DocuSign, we were able to actually get all the signatures within a few days. And it was a much easier process for them as well, because we also included the very first page in the documents. We included it in the language the company speaks best, so in the local language, because all the documents are English. So the companies were able to fill in all the information in a page that's in their language. It filled in all the other documents. They were able simply to scroll through and check if everything is correct and put the signature on the page. And then some other small recommendations would be that I would recommend to start with potential SME adopters right away. So during the ideation kickoff, you will also already have some small, medium SME adopters that also want to integrate, and you might have some conversations there. But the problem was for us that we didn't find any of our adopters in the ideation kickoff. Some of them were interested, but they didn't fit very specifically to what we are building, and we would need to change too many things to adopt them. So the important thing that BlockStart, so that we didn't know in the beginning, so we thought that we need to find someone in the ideation kickoff, and if we don't find a startup, an adopter for a solution, that we will not be able to proceed along BlockStart. But that's not the case. You can, until the start of the pilot stage of the program, you can always find new adopters which will be able to sign up. And this is recommend as soon as you get accepted into BlockStart, start looking for adopters as you would need regardlessly. Document everything along the way. So because you will need to show to BlockStart, you will need to submit documents and presentations of what you achieved. Sometimes it's very hard if you have a deadline coming up and you need to kind of show everything that you have achieved. So always, every single week, try to write down what you have achieved, what are the KPIs. It's going to be much more easier to create the deliverables, and it will not be a hassle because you will have everything in place. And as a startup, regardless, you usually need to send out some updates to other stakeholders, investors, and usually what you prepare for BlockStart is going to be useful for all other parts of your business anyways. Then I'm already mentioned to meet the pilot customers in person, if possible, to kind of better learn. And also, kind of the last 2 points from my side would be, if you look for SME adopters, try to find those that are possible customers. Because if you just try, let's say you're in ideation kickoff and you just try to look for some company where you can adjust your solution, but if it doesn't really fit your target customer, you will spend a lot of time and money to change your solution for maybe an industry or a specific target customer, which is not your customer, to make it scalable. So for us, it was kind of this one of our best decisions was to focus on customers that are possible paying customers in the future. And the last learning for us was that when you start working on a pilot project, don't just agree with them on the pilot project. Create a contract which lays down the free period, which is the pilot period, but make it turn into a paying customer after the successful ending of the pilot project. And you can kind of adjust to the needs of your company, but this kind of sets the stage that if a company is willing to sign such a contract, that they are also a possible customer in the future. It's a valuable customer that you want to try out your solution with, but a customer that if everything goes smoothly, if you provide value to the company, that they will be staying as your customer. And this helps also in the fundraising and every other part of your business. So I hope I was not too long, and that's kind of everything from my side. If you have any questions, this is my contact information. If you want to learn anything about what we do, about our experience at BlockStart, or if you need any other kind of tips or recommendations or help with, let's say, implementing the same DocuSign process flow along the way, just reach out to me, most preferably via email. So thank you.
Rainis, thank you so much. That was very helpful and very insightful at the same time. You provided like very important tips and lessons learned, either during the application process, but also throughout the process in the scope of BlockStart. So thank you so much. And I believe that our participants, either in this webinar or those who will be watching this video recording, will learn a lot from you and those tips and make them their own. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now we go to our Q&A part. So I invite all of our participants to share any doubts, any questions that they may have regarding BlockStart as a whole, more specifically our open call too, or if they have questions for Rainy. So I think that we already have a raised hand. So Sebastian Holler, are you able?
Yes.
Yes, you can speak. Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for taking my question. Actually, I'm more in hopes than in doubts, thankfully, to your presentation. Just two questions. First of all, we actually just registered our business with the company register here in Austria, and we do not have a VAT number, but we are about to become a legal entity soon, hopefully. Should I still be signing the SME intent to create an SME, or would you just take my register from the company register to see that we already are in the process of establishing the SME?
I may answer you, Sebastian. Thank you for your question. So, as right now, as you don't have the VAT, you are not able to fill in the Annex 5. We recommend you to fill in the Annex 5.1. So, and basically, this one is a straightforward document. It's just signing and filling in your name and the name of the company, and so we recommend you to do this. And there are some cases that actually some non-VAT registered companies are still able to participate in the program due to the specificities of their activity. But from what I've understood, your case is of a company that will be VAT registered, but not in the time frame of this open call. But there's no problem at all. So if you fill in the simpler version 5.1 annex with this commitment, like just a one-page document, simple one, it will be more than enough. And then later on, if you are selected, we'll ask you to provide the full Annex 5 SME registration and the VAT registration, but only later on.
Understood. Thank you. And my second question was in regards to the Annex 3.1. How technical are you expecting the project activities to be?
I believe that there is a limit in terms of the number of words or characters that you are able to fill in. But even if there's not such a limit, I don't recall by mind. But I would say that whatever you feel right now that is within your technical product roadmap for the coming 6 months, 1 year, so only what you are sure about, and so I wouldn't say that you need to go too deep technically, but make sure to provide enough elements so that the jury understands the technical concept of your solution and has some idea of the way you are planning things for the coming 6 months to 1 year, so that we understand that. Why do I say 6 months to 1 year, and I'll even say 1 year, so that we try to get to know your vision for the coming months, when BlockStart will actually be happening, this second acceleration program. So just feel free to provide as many elements that you feel, not going too deep, but with a comprehensive scenario for technical development.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome, Sebastian.
Thank you, Sebastian. So we have another raised hand, Jamil from Tokyo Software.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, so I have also two questions. So the first one is that our solution, our blockchain solution is usually used by ecosystem. That means by association of SMEs, associations of public stakeholders. So if we can come with potential clients that are not SMEs, but association of SMEs, so let's say NGOs that represent SMEs, is it well? Can it be accepted? Hello? Hello?
Okay, so sorry, I was muted. If you could repeat the question, please.
Yes, of course. Yes, our blockchain solution is mainly used currently, and we will develop new layers, and it will be mainly used by associations of SMEs. So if we come with potential clients that are association of SMEs, NGOs, association of public stakeholders, is it valid, or we just have to come with SMEs?
I would say that it will always depend on the framing of this association. If they qualify for the SME criteria, we had such cases, and in principle it will be possible if they are below the 250 employees, and so non-profit organizations are also able to participate as adopters. So I would say that in principle, if they are not over 250 employees and 50 million turnover, of course, I assume they won't be. So there shouldn't be any problem. But and even then, so not only these SME associations, but you may also be able to bring on board the specific SMEs that will eventually benefit from this from your implementation. So I'll say that in principle the associations will be suitable to participate as adopters, so that's okay. And in any case, you can even foresee to involve these associations and also specific SMEs that will be testing your solution eventually. So I think that there's no problem with that.
Okay. And my second question was, if we have already a blockchain solution that has been implemented by some clients, if we want to add new layers to this solution, can we participate to BlockStart to add these new layers?
Yes, it has to be. So your solution may be already developed, but it has to be a major development, something that really is not an incremental change, but some new, some deep new features, some new kind of model or so. If you can support the fact that you already have something that is being implemented, but now you are doing like a refurbishing and some new development that is can be framed as a new prototype, let's say. If so, yes. I think it's okay.
Okay, thanks a lot for your answer.
Okay, you're welcome. And so for last question,
I think that there was a question to you, right, João?
Yeah,
chat?
Through the chat. So basically, the question was about how this program compares with BlockIS. And this specific person, David Marula, they have been shortlisted for BlockIS, another H1 2020 project. And will this be a stopper or for applying for BlockStart? And the answer is not at all. So if you were already participating in this kind of program, and so I've just shared the links through the chat. So it's BlockIS is the first project, the first program, and then the other two are, let's say, similar programs to BlockStart. Actually, I think they won't have any more open call, but if they would have, we would still recommend you to apply to these programs. And so in fact, I would say that Datarella, Kidian that was with us today, To Be Smart, and the Bright Habitat. So 4 of our 10 prototype stage finalists participated in other programs like Blockpool, Blockshares, BlockIS. So it's totally normal that companies want to get all the opportunities they can. So what's important is that you cannot implement the same solution that you developed. So you cannot develop within BlockStart the very same solution that you developed in other programs. So it may still be the same product, but you should show that it's a totally different development scenario. So let's say that you'll be developing completely different features or a segment of your solution that was not tackled in other programs. So just to ensure that there is no double funding problem here. So apart from that, it's totally okay. And also some question about differences to BlockIS. Main differences is that they tackle agri-food, logistics, and finance, and we tackle in terms of sectors ICT, fintech, and retail. And also the other major difference is that they are focused on sectoral challenges. So from clusters, they have some challenges from the sectors that they select and the clusters they are partnering with. And BlockStart is totally devoted with challenges from SMEs. So basically the core idea of this program is you develop an MVP, you implement in specific SMEs, and not a general idea of a sectorial or cluster-based challenge. So I would say that these are the two main differences. So bottom line, these programs they have some differences between themselves. So if you are able to benefit from all of them, there's no problem. Only bear in mind the double funding problem. So develop different stuff in each project, of course. So I think that we are actually running out of time. So
exactly. Thank you so much, João, since there will be another member of the F6S team needing to use the Zoom. But if you have further questions or will have after reading our annexes or going through our online form, so please reach out. We will send you, I won't say right away, but between today and tomorrow, an email with all the necessary links, either for the online forms, for reaching out with more questions, for this video recording, and also for the PowerPoint presentation. So please feel free to reach out to us until the 13th of September, 5 p.m. set. We will be very much available and happy to answer all the questions that you may have and support you in this process. Thank you so much to Rainis for the tips and lessons learned and continued success throughout BlockStart and after your participation. And thank you so much. So from my side, I would say goodbye to everyone and thank you for your participation.
Yeah, sure. So thank you. And if you have any doubt, reach out to us, to our email. We'll be happy to help. And if you are willing to, please apply as soon as possible so that we can help you out with some these eligibility stuff and so on. And so thanks a lot and see you next time.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.